We don't look at our own conduct to see how much our own conduct, our own shortcomings have actually contributed to the situation the Muslims find themselves in. By just saying, well, the Freemasons have done this and the Freemasons have done that. But just let's look at some aspect. I think Maulana Suliman Kindi, who is very well known in terms of translating Futuh Sham, the conquest of Syria, has looked at some of the facts that have been made mention. Now, one of the facts, for example, he said that the Freemasons, in it is a clip in the arrivals, that the Freemasons realized the error when they lost control of Napoleon. And therefore they made certain when the American Revolution came that they installed a Freemason, George Washington. Now that very clearly makes mention that the American Revolution happened after the French Revolution. But yet if you look at history, what do you find? You find that the American Revolution, after the signing of the treaty terminating the Independence War, was signed in 1783, which is 16 years before Napoleon came to power in 1799. Did the Masons then invent a time travel machine, he goes on to write, to install George Washington back in 1775? Incidentally, Washington died in 1799, the year Napoleon came to power and broke away from the Masonic control. So the producers make this claim that the French Revolution, because they failed to get, they lost control of Napoleon, they saw to it that in the American Revolution they will get a Freemason by the name of George Washington so that they could install him for their own purposes. But yet historical data proves otherwise. It shows that the American Revolution happened after the French Revolution and not as how it has been claimed by the producer of the DVD. Another aspect, just to say that we can't accept, although people are saying we have to be careful with whom we gain facts from that will alter our iman, the way as Maulana Yusuf Abed has made mention. Innamal ilmu bit ta'allum. Bukhari makes mention that ilm is through the means of learning from authentic sources and authentic people. We will be very careful with whom we invest our money. We should be even more careful with regard to whom we invest our iman with. And this particular aspect, it's about much of the whole series is also about Dajjal. Now, one aspect with regard to Dajjal has been made mention about the hadith which appears in Sahih Muslim, that Dajjal will emerge on the road between Iraq and Syria. Then the Sahaba asked, Ya Rasulullah, how long will he stay on earth? Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said 40 days. Out of that 40 days, one day will be like a year, one day will be like a month, one day will be like a week, and the rest of his days will be like the normal days. Sahaba asked, Ya Rasulullah, that day which is going to be like a year, how will we perform our salat in that particular day? And Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam replied, calculate it according to its extent, the way you read your 5 times salat. Now, when you look at that hadith of our beloved Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the producers make this claim with regard to Dajjal, that, firstly, according to us, Dajjal is a person. From the hadith which of Tamim Adari, he is in some way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept him. He will emerge when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the permission, and when it is according to the plan of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But yet we find this whole series making mention that Dajjal has already emerged, that the Dajjal civilization is already in place. Then it says the first day of Dajjal represents his rule in England starting in 1900 of the Common Era. Yet, the continuous monarchy of England is dated from 1829. But of course sometimes, and this is a problem with regard to this whole aspect, you have to create a sensationalism around the story that you are trying to create. So it says, although it starts in 1829, the English monarchy, but yet what do you find is that it says the first day represents his rule in England in 1900, the second day represents his rule in America starting in 1917, and the third day represents his rule in Palestine starting in 2001. All of a sudden you see, now what the youngsters are going to realize, what they are regarding to be that this is going to change our mind, change our life, what impact it has with regard to how it differs from what the Quran and Hadith has told us.
Okay, let's go to a sister on the line from the Eastern Cape. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Well, on a very interesting program, very thought-provoking as well. Many key issues, I think, especially for the youth. As Maulana Bham rightly mentioned about the issue of Maulana Suliman Kindi commenting on it, and rightly so, he concluded his article saying, arrivals is correct that there is infiltration, they are just slyer than many expect. So some of the key points you mentioned, some of the common Shia lies that come across, no mention of Aisha radiallahu anha, as amongst the family of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Also the mention of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu as the one who poisoned Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam's grandson. So these are many distortions. I think there's many mistakes in the Aqidah, there's many half-truths, there's many speculations that haven't been proved or affirmed. And what we as an ummah need to do is allow the Muslim ummah to learn from our noble scholars and ulama, to learn the Quran and Sunnah with the understanding of the Sahaba, and not waste our time on such productions. I think the information about the masonry, etc. We need to understand this from a different angle, and to realize that a lot of this is it's really not information that empowers Muslims or is going to create a change in it. I personally don't think so. We need to be taking our knowledge from the scholars of Deen. We need to be looking at approved books on Firaqul Adyan, and also the historical point lastly, that we mentioned the historical points, so many of them were incorrect in the presentation. So if these were supposed great researchers, how do we trust them if basic historical information, like Maulana mentioned, is not correct? So how do we then trust the other information?
Right.
At the end of the day, it may sound very blasé, but really it's a brazen distortion of the Quran and the Hadith. And our interpretation of Quran and Hadith is what Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us via the chain of the Sahaba and the Mufassirin and the Muhaddithin. And finally, I think that the filmmaker or those that produced it should then perhaps have read the book The Devil's Deception. I think it was translated in English by Dr. Bilal Phillips of Ibn Jawzi's Talbis Iblis, and I'm sure he wouldn't want to read the truth of what we really believe in, because he said, a big lie in his film, as we know, about the poisoning of Imam Hassan by